Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and today I'm holding a copy of Shadow the Hedgehog 2005 for the PlayStation 2. If you want to ask why, it's because I want to talk about some old video games. Because if you haven't heard news recently, the movement called Stop Killing Games has been in some controversy, and a lot of people have been talking about it. So it sparked me to talk about my passion for video games and why I think the industry is going to shit. But first, I want to talk about my favorite era of video games. Because you may thought that because I'm holding a copy of a PlayStation 2 game that is, well, not the best, it would be my favorite era of video games. And you would be close, but you're not correct. Actually, my favorite era of the video games is actually PlayStation 3. And with a beautiful masterpiece of a game, if I would say so myself, Metal Gear Solid 4, Guns of the Patriots. Now, why am I talking about this today? Well, it's because I'm feeling nostalgic. Again, because every day I see these online games just constantly getting updated and they're not having physical copies. And that bothers me because it's not, listen, it's not because I'm just a whiny old man child that doesn't want to move on and because, yeah, we don't have physical media anymore, so that's a bad thing. No. The reason why I want physical media is because when you own physical media, you actually own the game instead of it just being a fucking digital code. And that's the real problem. Because when you buy a copy of a game digitally, you're buying a license to play the game. You're not buying a copy of the game. That license can be revoked from you at any moment that they want to. And that is a serious problem when it comes to these games because we're paying absurd prices for these titles. That's a serious problem. We're paying absurd prices for these titles, and they're only getting worse if you really do think about it. Games are up to $80 to $70 nowadays, which is insane. Even $90 if you're buying from Nintendo, physically that is. But it's a bad business, and it wasn't always like that, and that's the problem because we used to actually own the copies of games that we bought. Copies. Because I have seen CEOs of companies like Ubisoft say that, oh, well, you technically don't own the game. You don't own the IP. No shit. I'm not dumb enough to actually convince myself that I own the game. No, I own a copy of the game that I bought when I drove my fat ass to the store to buy the game. And then I come home, I pop it into the fucking console, I take my feet off, rub them together real good, and I get ready to play some fucking good games. That's becoming a problem because now we're not able to do that anymore because some games don't even come with the full game. Now, you may ask, well, everybody's got the internet. I mean, come on, everybody has the internet. What if the power goes out and then the internet's provider gets fucked? Or what happens to a server when it goes offline too? You're fucked. Unlike somebody else who may have bought a game that does, in fact, have the full game installed onto the disc. Well, no, I wouldn't say installed, but it's on the disc. Then you pop it into the console and it's actually read and it's actually fully installed without the internet being provided. Because that's another misconception that I see a lot nowadays is that apparently, oh, well, you're still buying a game key card. You're still buying a license. No. Some games that are released nowadays by certain developers are fully on the disc. Blu-ray is capable of having that amount of storage. Trust me. So it's getting really frustrating at this point to where I see people who defend this shit because it is absolutely heinous. It's almost, I want to say it's children. I really do want to say it's children or very, very young people who didn't grow up with games when they came out and they were completed. That was another thing. Games used to come out completed, guys. Would you believe that? It did. Games used to come out completed. For example, this game, Sonic Unleashed. This game came after Sonic the Hedgehog 2006. But you know what? When this game came out, it was pretty fucking good. I enjoyed it, at least personally. It's a classic, and it was completed. There's a lot of games that come out nowadays that don't do that. And it is absolutely horrendous why they don't ever complete games nowadays, and I think it's stupid. And so we live in an era now where video games are becoming more and more of a business than they are becoming a passion. They're becoming less and less like art, and they're becoming more and more just slop. And it's not just a running meme in the community, it's a real thing. There are games that are being made that are just absolute slop, and it's disgusting in my opinion. It really is, because this is a form of media that I would like to be preserved every other form of media, like for example music and even television and movies and even books. There are so many copies of those things made. For example, books, you can preserve both physical and you can preserve books in audio ways, physical ways, even digital ways, because it's just a book. It's the way that it's created. But with a video game, you have this big conglomerate of code and a game that has to be played. You know what I mean? It's programming, and it takes a lot of effort, to make these. It takes tens and twenties. Like if you've ever seen how big a studio is, it's massive. Like if you go, for example, if you want my advice, take one of your favorite games that's made by one of your favorite studios and then watch the behind the scenes, and you will truly experience how much work it actually takes when it goes to making a video game, because it is insane how much money and time and effort it takes to make a game. And it's sad to know that some of these people's creations are not going to see the light of day in the future because of what's happening currently with what these companies are doing. They are shipping these games out with them still being connected to servers. And so when the server gets cut off in the future, 10 or 15 years down the line, you are absolutely D-O-double-D fucked. That is it. You are done. You have wasted your time and you have wasted your money, and these people who have maybe even had good memories with those games are fucked too. And that's sad to me, even if it's a game that I don't care about, because every one game has one fan. Always remember that. Every one game has one fan, and I care about that one fan being able to have those experiences deep far into the future, and maybe they'll even pass it down to their friends, family, or children, or whatever it may be, because that's important, because it's preserved media. That should mean something to people, but unfortunately it's gotten to the point where video games don't get that same respect because the media is not that old. But it is getting to that point. I mean, you think about it. The PlayStation 3 is actually starting to become technically a retro console. Back in 2006, when the 360 and the PlayStation 3 were new, 20 years ago was 1986. Okay, that was around the time of the NES. And then a few years later, the Sega Genesis. And those were retro consoles then. It is fit to be 2026. And these games and consoles are becoming retro. Oh, that makes me it makes me sound really old. But seriously, it is insane what is happening to the genre. And I hope there's a turnaround. I hope that these developers... Well, I wouldn't say the developers. It's really the company's faults. I'm never going to blame the developers half the time, because I know that the developers are just doing their jobs half the time, and they're just creating art. And I respect most developers, but when it comes to these companies, they can eat my dick sideways. I don't care about EA, or especially not Activision or Blizzard or any of these other companies. But man, I don't know. This is a very passionate topic for me, and that's why I'm doing this so raw and uncut, because I do care about video games. They are a passion of mine. I love collecting them, I love playing them, and I love talking about them. And unfortunately, we are getting to a point now where some people, including myself, don't want to talk about new video games, because the new ones that come out are pretty trash. And they keep rehashing the same series over and over again. It's like nobody can come up with something new or original, And that's why I'm glad the indie scene exists, though. The indie scene does exist. If you ever see an interesting indie game that looks interesting, try it out, seriously. Because indie developers are our future at this point. They really are. Indie developers are our future. Because these AAA studios, they don't know what the fuck they're going to do. I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know either. Maybe I sure don't know. But it is getting really depressing to know that we are pretty much screwed unless something is done. Which is why I'm glad Stop Killing Games exists, because Stop Killing Games is going to be the wake-up call to some of these governments to enforce laws upon these companies to actually make the games playable outside of it being connected to the internet, because it's getting bad, and I hope that it gets fixed soon. But yeah, that's about it. See ya.